it's just kind of a general Q&A. You guys provide the Q. I'll try my best to provide the A. So yeah, does anyone have any questions about meaning of life, work, whatever? Yeah.
Hi.
Oh wait, him first, and we'll get you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I asked this of all the voice actors Q&As. Which story about another voice actor can you tell comfortably in this scenario? Preferably something funny.
Just any story?
A funny story.
Oh goodness.
With other voice actors.
Funny one. I mean, every day is funny. Like every day at Funimation is funny. But just because, you know, when you get a bunch of actors together, like we're all gonna laugh, we're all gonna goof off, we're all gonna act like children. I'm trying to think of like something you guys would think was funny. Like, something that's not just like silly shenanigans. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Like of like specific stories. I can think of a lot of like inspiring stories. I'm trying to think of like Brina Valencia is like my big sister, and she's kind of the one that kind of helped me with my confidence with singing, because I kind of had some really bad scars from high school when it came to singing. And when I was cast as Sunsetto in My Bride is a Mermaid, I was like, I'd only been working for Funimation for like a year and a half. I was like 20 years old. I was still kind of getting to know my way around the mic and around the booth, because I was a theater actor before I became a voiceover actor. And she was kind enough to, and if you know Brina or know of her, she has an amazing singing voice. She does a lot of singing. She's very musically talented and musically inclined. And she was kind enough to work with me outside of work so that she could kind of build up my confidence and assure me that, like, you know, Alexis, like, no, you're supposed to be here. Like, the director wouldn't have cast you if, like, he didn't think that you would do it. So she kind of started me on my journey to recovery, so to speak, when it came to singing and like kind of getting over my demons when it came to that. And I bring that up because on Facebook, I just had a memory, like, you know, like the memories that come up on Facebook, and it was when I was, that was like 7 years ago, and it was when I was Facebook statusing about that, and I was like, ooh, so I have that on the brain right now. But funny stuff, it's always funny when Chris Sabat's in the studio, because Sabat's crazy. Because I'm Caitlin Glass's assistant director, I had to direct him recently, and that was like so scary. Like, he's a friend of mine and I love him to death, but like, it's Chris Sabat. Like, it doesn't matter how nice he is, it's Chris Sabat. I mean, like, you know, his reputation precedes him, but he's a huge goofball. He's directed me on a few things, and it was interesting to kind of have the roles reversed. And it was just so great because we were recording the Show by Rock shorts, a few of them. It's one of the broadcast dubs, and he loves to play, and so he'd be like, hey, I know there's only like 15 cues, and I'm booked for an hour, and we're gonna get this done like super quick, but can I just like play and like give you different reads and stuff? And I was like, oh yeah, by all means, please do. And so that was really exciting, just getting to, and I was kind of giving him a hard time in the lobby. I was like, oh, you know, the student becomes the master, I'm gonna direct you now. And he was like, oh God, am I gonna pay for like every time I teased you or like jerked you around about something? I'm like, no. But it was really fun, and it was really cool to get to interact with him in that way. So I'm sorry I'm not like thinking of like super hilarious specifics, but like I said, every time I could be having a really awful day and I can go into work and just like laugh until I'm hurt. So, but I can't think of any specifics. I just know that I laugh a lot when I go to work. So.
Any pranks? There's always
pranks. Sabat's like the king of pranks, which is really ironic because he's like the most paranoid person on the planet. Like if he does a prank to you, he's immediately terrified of you because he's afraid that you're gonna get him back. And he's never pranked anybody at work, but well, no, I guess technically he did. I was recording in the booth and I had to hop out because he had to do a pickup, and so I was like still in the room and I left my purse in the studio. He's the reason I have a lock screen on my phone because it's hacked into too many people's phones. And so he tried to do, well actually I took my phone with me so he couldn't even try, but my purse was still in there. And when I left, like at the end of my session I was going home, and my purse felt really heavy for some reason, and I didn't really think anything about it because have like a giant Mary Poppins bag. I carry tons of stuff. And then I got home and realized he had put all this stuff in my purse. Like there was all this stuff. There was like you know those beads that you can fill like flower vases with? Somehow, I don't know where he got them, there was a bag of those in my purse. I'm like, well, no wonder it was so heavy. He'd taken all these, I was in Caitlin's studio, he'd taken all these pens that were clearly Caitlin's, he'd just taken all this stuff from her studio and put it in my purse. And then at the very bottom was a Polaroid of him wearing the over 9,000 like scanner. And he's like, and it's like at the bottom of my purse. And then I was like, I messaged him and I was like, good prank, and I'm like, I found the picture, and then he's like, oh Alexis, you're so weird. You took a picture of me and you have it in your purse. You're such a creeper. And I'm like, I didn't know. No, that's you. You did it. So it was so funny. But yeah, and then like Josh Greeley, who's here also, he's one of my best friends. We bomb each other constantly, like in the booth, and most of them are inappropriate. But yeah, it's like kind of shenanigans abound, really, in Funimation. You had a question.
Oh, okay, so yeah, like, considering how, like, the majority of your characters that you voice are, like, rather, like, jolly and cheerful, like, what was it like voicing, like a semi, like, emotionless character, like a Saya from Bloodseed?
Oh, well, Saya was interesting because she started off as one of those characters that you just described, and kind of descended in, not really into madness, but definitely into revenge and like a very, I mean, she is literally a different person by the end of the series. And so by the time we get to the movie, she's just completely different. And I sort of feel, well, I don't sort of, I wholeheartedly feel that if we had not had Bloodsea, the series, which we dubbed before we even knew there was going to be a movie. You know, if we had just got the movie, I don't think I would have been cast as Saya. Like, I think I was only cast as Saya because I was her in the series, because that was a very, very different role for me, and that's not my typical range. And it was kind of physically painful at times. There were, I was very grateful for this, but I was only allowed to record for 2 hours at a time because it was so taxing on my voice. We had to cut a session short because I had blood in my mouth. So it was that kind of thing. I was very straining on my vocal cords. But it taught me a lot, and it forced, and thank God it was just for a movie, not for a whole series, but yeah, it was, and really that was more complicated and challenging from a vocal aspect, not necessarily an acting aspect, because, you know, even though my, for lack of a better term, typecast is, you know, the happy-go-lucky, sweet, upbeat schoolgirls, I've also played a lot of characters that are not like that, and I've also played a lot of characters that are not like that on stage. So, and that kind of like encompasses me as a whole. It's like, I'm known for playing these like usually pink-haired, happy-go-lucky, sweet, happy schoolgirls, but I'm also kind of known for playing darker characters, and that's kind of my typecast on stage. I'm either the ingenue or I'm like the crazy person, and that's kind of how I am in real life. I love Disney, but I love horror movies. Like, it's just kind of a trope that follows me everywhere. But I love the happy-go-lucky ingenue characters, but I also love, you know, the deeper, darker characters too, because they're just, they're so much fun to like explore. I love it. So yeah, it is challenging, but in a fun way, in a way that I 1,000% welcome and actually seek out. So never shy away from the challenge. I love it. Yeah.
How was your experience working on Tales of Assyria, and like doing the anime now? How is that different from doing the game?
Tales of Assyria was my first project ever in Los Angeles. So it was my Los Angeles debut, if you will. And it was, oh my gosh, like, there was so, I'm like getting PTSD thinking about it. Not really, but it was so stressful because when I flew to Los Angeles, my flight was delayed by like 5 hours. And I was recording the same day. And so I ended up being an hour late to my very first session in Los Angeles with people who didn't know me, who sent me auditions based off of the positive word of Patrick Seitz, who had never worked with me before, and I'm like a huge, oh my gosh, one of my biggest pet peeves is people making me late or me being late to something even by a few minutes. And so the fact that I was an hour late, I mean, I was constantly updating them, like on the flight. It was out of my control. I'm like sitting on the plane, like bawling my eyes out. Like, it was so stressful. And so I get there and I walk in, I'm an hour late, and Wendy Lee is the director. And I'm like, oh my God, kill me now. And so luckily it ended up being, oh, another thing too, is if you were on my last panel, we were kind of talking about how they record very differently in Los Angeles. So on top of all of that, I'm having to learn a new way of recording. And oh my gosh, it was so stressful, but we ended up getting done early, which was good, despite me being late. It's good to work fast. But I learned so much in Tales of Assyria, and so much, there were so many firsts involved with recording the video game. And so when I heard they were making an anime, I was really intrigued, because I knew going into the video game that it was like, what, the 20th anniversary, and so they were really giving it, you know, the Tales franchise, and so they were giving it a lot of really special attention. And so when we kind of heard whispers of this anime series that they were coming out with, but what was really curious was, you know, I was in Tales of Assyria, Caitlin Glass is in Tales of Assyria, Ian Sinclair is in Tales of Assyria. All of us are Dallas actors, like working on this Los Angeles project. And so when we heard that the anime had not only been created, but that someone was getting the rights to it, it was like, okay, well, this is going to be really interesting. Is Los Angeles going to get it, or is Funimation going to get it in Dallas? And turns out Funimation got it, and it was not only that, but it became one of the broadcast dubs, so we were cranking out an episode a week. And so it was really interesting, because with the anime, I was working with a completely different director who knew nothing about the world or the characters, or had kind of just had this like thrown into his lap. And so it was strange having to revisit this world, but through the eyes of a different person, if that makes sense. And then the fact that all of the Dallas characters were recorded in Dallas, but all of the Los Angeles characters were recorded in Los Angeles. So my director was not the only director. And so there were a lot of frustrations with that. So all across the board, it was just a very different experience. We don't usually split duty like that. So yeah, but it was really cool getting to revisit the character, especially almost a year later, from the time we started the anime to the time we started recording the game. And I was pleased, because I knew there was some backlash in Japan, because Alicia was touted as being one of the lead roles, and she leaves, spoiler, she leaves your party like halfway through the game, like not even. And Rose ends up being like the main female protagonist, and she wasn't advertised at all. Like, she's like in none of the promo videos. So apparently there was a lot of backlash that Alicia was not involved more in the video game. So to sort of satiate the fans, they had an Alicia DLC, but I guess that still wasn't good enough. So, but she has a very large part in the anime, much bigger than Rose. So that was really cool. And like, people were telling me, they're like, did you know that like a lot of people are really mad that Alicia didn't get more time in the game? And I was like, was she supposed to have more, what? Like, 'cause I hadn't seen any of the promos. I didn't know what any of them were talking about. And so it was just really interesting. It's like, we're going into this world, and it's kind of the same as the game, but it's not, because they're making Alicia more involved. And there were like plot points in the game that never happened in the anime. Like, I won't spoil it, one major character betrays Alicia, and so the entire anime I kept waiting for that to happen. And I'm like, I hear they're making more, so maybe it'll happen then. But I guess I should have trusted that character during this recording process, because she didn't do what she did in the game. So it was so confusing. But yeah, it was interesting, and I'd never recorded a video game that also had an anime adaptation. So I'd either done one or the other. I'd never done both. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
My question is, how healthy you think the anime industry is right now? When the economy wasn't so good, a lot of English anime companies went out of business, or they stopped dubbing. And so I'm just wondering, do you think the industry is still struggling, or do you think they're much better now? Or?
Well, to your point of, and you're absolutely right about, there was a time when, you know, a lot of anime studios were folding, and some of the anime studios that were very prevalent, like in the 90s, are, you know, a dream now. You know, it's like, or if they're still working, they're not producing the amount of anime that they once were. But I do feel the need to clarify that I think you can blame that on the economy in a roundabout way, but what really contributed to it was pirating. Which I can understand if someone is like, I don't have money because of the economy, but I want to watch anime, but a lot of it was just, in my opinion, fans that were being very greedy. It had nothing to do with the economy, and it was just, I want anime faster, which is another reason why this simulcast initiative through Funimation and Crunchyroll and places like that has been so important, because it's trying to give the fans what they want so that they don't pirate and we don't run into something like that again. So I definitely think that the anime industry today, even in the last 5 years, compared to what it was like when I was a kid, is totally different. I mean, anime is so readily accessible. I mean, you can buy anime merchandise at Target. You know, I was laughing with someone at the last convention I was at about how, oh my gosh, I remember when finding Sailor Moon merchandise at a convention was almost impossible. And if you found something, it was an exorbitant amount of money. And now, oh my God, it's everywhere. So the accessibility of not just anime episodes, but anime merchandise is just on the rise and has been for a very long time. I think the anime industry did suffer a blow, you know, a few years ago, but I definitely think it's getting better. And with this merger between Crunchyroll and Funimation and all the simulcast dubs, I think it's just going to continue to get better and better. So yay for that. But yeah, just get on my soapbox for a minute. Pirating is bad. Don't do it, because you're not just hurting. You know, and some people are like, oh well, I hate dubs, so that's why I pirate, because I want to hurt the dubbing industry. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you're going to accomplish that, but you're also hurting the anime industry as a whole. You're hurting the Japanese economy when you do that. So if you want anime to be accessible in any language, don't pirate. It is as simple as that. So yes, just tell your friends.
It's also against the law.
It's also against the law. It's very true. But yeah, it's not. You're not sticking it to the man. You're contributing to the fall of the industry as a whole. So choose your priorities. Yeah, back there.
When you did the Kurumi role,
Oh, hey.
what mindset were you in when you did the role? Like,
Mindset was my, oh God. My mindset was, this is a really cool character and I want to do her justice. To be honest, that was the mindset I was in. And with these simulcasts, we don't really audition as much anymore. Back when we did Data Live auditions, we auditioned for basically every show. Whenever I would audition, we were usually allowed to choose 3 characters out of the book of leads to audition for. And so my philosophy back then was I would always audition for a character that was easy, you know, something that I had a type of character that I had a lot of experience doing. I would audition for a character that was a variation on something that was easy, like this is, you know, not too far out of the box. It might be a little lower than I'm used to or a little higher than I'm used to, but it's something that I'm still confident that I could do. And then I would choose something that I always called a wild card, something that was just completely out of my zone, something I'd never done before, something that was, you know, I would either completely, you know, just conquer it in the audition, or I would completely fall on my face, like no knowing. Kurumi was my wild card in that audition.
you did it perfectly, really.
Thank you, I appreciate that so much. But when I got hired to voice Kurumi, Joel McDonald, who directed the first season, he confided in me after our first session, and he said, you know, one of the reasons, he's like, I cast you because I thought you were right for the character, I liked your voice, but he's like, honestly, what gave you more bonus points were you were the only one in the audition out of all the girls I auditioned, which was like almost 100, that went for it. Like, and what he meant by that was a lot of Kurumi's audition lines were some of her very sadistic but yet sensual monologues, where you're like, I don't know if I'm excited or terrified, you know, like listening to this. She always rides that line. It's like, I want to trust you, but it's like the scorpion and the frog. Like, I don't, and so he said, he's like, you know, a lot of the girls would play the darkness or play the insanity, and they would have absolutely none of the sensuality that Kurumi has. They were too embarrassed, or they would fumble because they were just like they didn't have the courage to go there. And so Kurumi was really interesting because you have to go there to play her convincingly, I think. And so, and then the fact that she arguably kind of has two personalities. You know, she has like her schoolgirl personality, the facade, if you will, that still has cracks. You meet her and you're like, yeah, okay. And then there's Kurumi, which is, you know, in her pure form, which is no holds barred. She's not pretending anything. She's not hiding behind anything. What I love the most about characters like Kurumi is they may be absolutely insane or crazy, but I love finding the redeeming qualities. Like, you can say a lot about Kurumi, but in her own weird, twisted way, I think she really did love Shido, as much as she was able to, which is debatable. You know, how much was she able to love? And then she also had this amazing soft spot for animals. You know, it was sort of like, wow, what she did to that guy that was shooting the puppy with a pellet gun was really awful, but him torturing a puppy was pretty bad too. So who's the more evil person here? You know, and it's like, it's pretty bad, guys. When I saw the scene, I was like, oh my God, what did she do? And Joel was like, that is her painting a target on that man's chest with the blood of his friends. I'm like, that's great. You're so cute. But yeah, so I love playing characters like Kurumi. I love finding those layers and that humanity, like despite her wicked intentions sometimes. But yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Yeah, purple.
Did you ever audition for a role where you were like, I really, really want this role specifically, as opposed to just, you know, trying to get work?
I definitely auditioned for shows that I really wished I could get a lead role in, just because I knew, like, I would have loved to have had a lead role in Black Butler. I don't care who it was. I just wanted a lead role in a big show like that, or a lead role in like, I mean, I'm in Black Butler, and I'm in Attack on Titan, and I'm in Fairy Tail, and I'm in Hitalia, but they're not major roles. And it's like, man, not only is this like a really popular show, but it's a really good show. Like, it's popular for a reason, and I would love to have a character that gets to experience that entire story. So I've been disappointed that I didn't get bigger parts in shows, but I don't know if I've ever, like, I learned really early on it's probably best not to get attached to any character. I think the only time that I just was like dying to get a role, and luckily it worked out, and then after that I was like, I would have been really disappointed if this didn't work out, so maybe I shouldn't do that to myself anymore. With Sunsetto in My Bride as a Mermaid, I wanted that so bad. But yeah, it's, you know, I am always grateful for the work no matter what I get, but there have been times where I'm like, oh darn, you know. But then I hear the people that did get cast and I'm like, oh, no wonder I wasn't cast. Like, they're rocking it. Like, I mean, who else? No. Like, and at the end of the day, my philosophy is I want the director to go with who they think is best for the role. Like, I do not want the integrity of the show to suffer if they're just casting someone for a different reason. Like, I want whoever is best for that role to be cast. If that's not me, that's not me. You know, it's nothing personal. So, yeah. That's another thing about working just as an actor. Like, you have to be able to take no. You have to be able to take rejection and not take it personally. If I was disappointed about every role that I thought I wanted that I didn't get cast as, I probably would have quit a long time ago. You know, it's like, because the disappointment would have been too much. So, you just have to look at it as I'm working and I'm doing what I love, and that's good enough. It doesn't really matter who I'm playing. So, you know, gotta find something fun with every role. So, there are no small roles, only small actors.
My three favorite roles of yours are Mocha, Musubi, and Mizuki.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Those three characters, which one is your favorite, and which one did you enjoy voicing the most?
Oh, goodness. I liked all three of them for different reasons. Oh, man. I'm really bad at favorite questions, you guys. I'm just telling you. It's like choosing a child. Can I say all three just for different reasons?
Sure.
Mizuki I loved playing because so many of my friends were in that show, and so it was like a really like good time. And I love zany, like high energy shows like that. Plus, she was like super high pitched, and I had so much fun with her. Mocha, because that was sort of it wasn't my first lead role, but it was my first like bigger role, so that was really a big deal for me, and I was really excited. Again, had a lot of people that I just adore in that show with me. Fan service is a little ridiculous sometimes, but I do think that the show had a lot of heart, and I did have a lot of fun doing it. I feel the same way about Sekirei. Again, ridiculous fan service, but if you can get past it, it has a lot of heart. And with Musubi, I guess, even though it was kind of a ridiculous fan service show at times, I think Musubi was the one that I felt like, this sounds weird and I'll explain in a second, but I kind of had like an emotional reaction to, because in the Japanese, and I love Saori Hayama, I think is the seiyuu for Musubi. Hayami, thank you. I love her work, and we've shared a few roles, and I absolutely adore her, and this is nothing against her personally at all, but I thought that Musubi in the Japanese version was just, she was played as if she was just stupid, and I don't like characters that are stupid for comedy. Like, I know that they're not real characters, but I just kind of find that disrespectful, that it's like, oh, you have big breasts and we're gonna make you an idiot and you're just the dumb bimbo, you know? And I don't like that, and I don't think that sends a very good message. And so with Musubi, I didn't want to play her that way. Like, I wanted her, I didn't want her to be stupid, I just wanted her to be ditzy at times, you know, and endearing. It had nothing to do with her intelligence, it just had, you know, she's just a very sweet girl that sees the best in everyone, and maybe that's naive, but it doesn't make her stupid. And so I wanted to try to bring that to the character, because I wanted her to have more depth than just being, oh, we're laughing at her because Musubi did something stupid again. And maybe that's not how everyone interpreted the Japanese performance, but I don't know, that just kind of bugged me a little bit, and I didn't want to do that to her. You know, and some people would say, oh, but it's just a fan service show, who cares? I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. You know, not to me. And luckily I had a director that felt the same way. And so, you know, despite the fan service, like I said, the show has a lot of heart. Musubi has an enormous heart, and I wanted that to be the focal point of her as a character, not her ditziness or her stupidity, you know? And she's not stupid, she's lovely. So, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you dub a character into English, do you and the director try to stay true with how you, like with Mitsubi, it seems like you changed it a little bit. Do you do that often, or do you usually try to stay true to the original way?
We definitely, I mean, with every single character, obviously we are trying to honor the original intent of the show and the original intent of the character, and all of the really important plot points are honored and the really important aspects of the character are honored, unless it's just untranslatable, you know, which is very rare. But no, all of that is absolutely honored and respected. But at the end of the day, you know, we also want to put a little bit of ourselves into the character as well, and put, you know, a little bit of, you know, the dub spin on it. Because, I mean, yes, like, of course we respect the original Japanese, and of course, like, if you prefer the Japanese over a dub, that's perfectly fine. Like, but I don't think it should be an us versus them. It should be two different entities. It's like, you know, it's kind of like a movie that's been remade. Like the 19, I forget what year it was, but like the 1950-something version of The Haunting is very different from the one from the 90s. But you can't compare apples to apples, because so much time has passed, and new technology is being used, and it's new actors, and so you can compare them, but I don't understand the dub versus sub war, because I think you should be able to appreciate them as two different entities, you know? And if you don't like one, don't watch it, it's that easy. I don't know why that's so difficult. But like, there have been some times where aspects of a character were completely changed. Case in point, never say it. It was one of our broadcast dubs. It was Mikaruga, I think is how you say it. Mikaruga School Suite, I think is what it was called. Again, there was a character that was like the dumb, large-breasted bimbo. And Sonny Strait, who's the director, he and I were goofing off before the session, and he and I always like slip into accents. That's just what we do. I don't know why. It's good practice. We were talking in like Russian accents, and he was like, "Okay, hop in the booth. You get to play this like dumb, big-breasted girl who is literally dumb. Like all of the lines are making fun of her for misunderstanding because she's stupid." And he was like, I was like, "Man, I wish I didn't. I mean, I'm grateful for the work, Sonny, but I wish it didn't have to be this way." And he's like, "You know, maybe it doesn't." Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, "We were just playing around with accents earlier. We ended that whole play on a Russian accent. Make her Russian." "I can't do that, Sonny. There's nothing in the script that says she's Russian." "I know, but how about this? How about we record the first episode as written, and then you can record the episode with an accent, and we'll see if we can get approval. Because how about instead of making her genuinely stupid, we make it her misunderstanding because she's not speaking her first language." And I was like, "I love this idea. Let's try it." I wholeheartedly did not expect it to get approved. It did. So I played, I know, and then the writer was like super excited about it, and she's like, "Okay, I'll put in all these Russianisms to help further support that." And I fully expected people to be so angry. I was like, people are gonna rip me apart for, destroying this character. If anyone was upset, I didn't hear anything about it, and I was shocked. So instead of her just being stupid, it was, "Oh, I don't understand this because I don't speak this language." And then it was someone being like, no, this is what they said. "Oh," and so it was really interesting, and I was excited that we got to do that, but it didn't contradict any plot points. It wasn't like, "Oh, she's a stupid girl from the South and they make fun of her Southern dialect, so you have to keep her Southern." It's like, no, there was nothing in there about that. And she spoke so intermittently that we could kind of get away with it. But other than that, where the director was just really cool and decided to try something new, we typically try to stick as close as possible to the original material. So, because we are honoring the work of someone else. So, Anybody else? This side of the room is so quiet. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
You played Rica in Haganai Next, and Haganai obviously. And I'm gonna try to word this question without spoiling it too much for those who have not watched it yet.
Right.
Fantastic anime, you should totally watch it. Towards the end of Haganai Next, Rica does a very large, compassionate, emotionally filled speech to the main character. And,
Exactly what you're talking about.
and how did you get into that mindset? Because in the Japanese dub, I literally cried. When you did it, I cried again. But,
Oh, yeah, good. Good.
But that super, obviously there's giant,
Glad you were moved.
super crazy robots, super crazy stuff going on. But despite that, you were able to just portray that. How'd you get into that mindset?
Whenever people ask me about Rica, they're like, "What did you think of voicing Rica?" And I always say she made me question my life choices, just because of all of these ridiculous. Oh my God, she's crazy in the best way. I love her, but things came out of my mouth that I would never say as Alexis. I would only say them as Rica. And because that happened in the second season, what you're talking about, I had all this time to experience the craziness that is Rica and the perviness that is Rica. She's also, a certified genius, so also all these crazy things that she talks about that no one understands because she's talking about all this scientific stuff. But I was so excited when the part that you're talking about comes up because it was really one of the first times that Rica wasn't putting on some sort of show. And I learned very early that Rica kind of overcompensates because all these people in the Neighbors Club are, for lack of a better term, broken in some way. That's why the Neighbors Club exists. All these people who can't make friends because of something that makes society reject them all come together in this club where the purpose is making friends. And Rica is no exception. And so it was I loved Haganai for a lot of different reasons, but in the first season, we explored why other characters were broken and we saw them vulnerable, but we just kind of heard about why Rica was broken. And so when we finally get to see her in all of her vulnerable glory, it was really, really cool to drop everything that had made up Rica, for everything from start to leading up to that point. It also helped that Jerry Jewell recorded before me, so I had him who's an amazing actor. I love Jerry, and I think he brought a lot to that role, especially in that scene you're talking about. But I had him to go off of. And I don't know, I don't really know how I got into the mindset necessarily. It just seemed very natural, I guess, because I had been craving that vulnerability from Rica, because she'd been hiding it like for most of the series. Like, we might have seen glimpses of it, but not in like a big scene like that. It's also one of the first times that we used an F-bomb in a show, which was interesting because it was not for comedy. I won't spoil anything, but her and this other character are having, she's basically thinks she's calling him out on all of his BS, and he turns the tables and is like, okay, well, if I'm hiding who I truly am, so are you. And like, here's all the things you've done. And like, you're constantly helping people when you're suffering, and you're constantly putting on this face that is not who you are. And I know you're in pain. And so he's like, so you think that I'm doing it, but you're not? Well, and like screams it like that. That's just a reaction when he turns on her like that and says that. She has a reaction where she's like, oh God, oh, tables have turned, and that was completely genuine. So Jerry helped me get in that mindset a lot too, because it was definitely a tug of war. I'm pushing against him, and then I'm defending myself. So yeah, Rica was quite a journey to get to that point, but I'm so glad that you had a positive reaction to it. I did my job. So thank you for sharing that.
Follow-up question, sorry.
Oh yeah, sure.
Which one of Rica's inventions do you want, personally?
Which one of Rica's inventions do I want? Oh my gosh. Oh. Didn't she have one where it was like instant hair dye or something? That one was pretty cool. Because being a redhead kind of sucks. I was blonde before this, and the upkeep of being a redhead is awful. Or she had one that like temporarily changes your eye color. Like when we saw that, I was like, oh man, cosplayers everywhere would love that. That'd be so cool. Or if I wanted to like do a social experiment, I could just like change how I look and see how people like react to me based on how I look. What else did she? I can't even remember all of her inventions. What else? What quid pro quo? What invention would you like to be real?
I mean, I'm guilty. I like the whole like video game thing she did, because I'm a huge like Block Horizon fan. So.
Oh my God! With the company was called Large Hard instead of Microsoft.
Oh.
I was like, yes, I love it. When Japan tries to dodge copyright, it's the best. She's like, oh my gosh, this is, and it's like the same font, and it's called Large Hard, and we're like, Microsoft, okay, you got me, not gonna Anybody else? Yeah.
So is there any cosplay as any of the characters that you've done?
I totally would. I've actually technically cosplayed as 2 of them before, but it was for promotional events. I cosplayed as Emi Kizuki from Line Girls of Iron, because it was my first lead role, and I got asked to cosplay as her for the announcement of the DVD. So that was really cool. And then I cosplayed as Mizuki from Baka and Test for the dub premiere at a convention. So yeah, that was really cool. Trying to think of like who I would want. I'm a big fan of like characters that have like big pretty dresses, but I don't know if a lot of my characters have that. If it wasn't so revealing, I think it would be, or maybe I wouldn't choose the revealing outfit. She has other ones, but Nori from Guilty Crown would be cool. I do not have the guts to pull off her default outfit though. Trying to think. Yeah. It'd be a lot, or like Choo Choo from Show by Rock. That'd be fun to walk around in. I don't know. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be cool. Totally. You had a question.
Yeah, how did you get started in voice acting?
Long story short, 'cause it's kind of like a roundabout thing. My story's kind of boring compared to others. Like, people are like, oh, I was in a play with the director and they brought me in. I did it the old-fashioned way. I submitted a resume and a demo reel, and over like a series of events of like very serendipitous, and I've already talked you guys' ears off so much already. But I basically, I got my first audition got booked off of a traditional submission of resume and headshot and voice demo, it was one of those kind of serendipitous things because I had auditioned. they lost my information because they were moving studios, and I was a new talent, so they misplaced my contract. Went away to school in college for my freshman year for a year, came back, resubmitted, and they were like, oh, we were trying to get a hold of you all this time, but couldn't find your number. Welcome back. And I'm like, wow, so glad I came back. So, but yeah, baseline, I did it the old-fashioned, boring, traditional way. So, yeah. Vacant stairs are not a question. Yes.
Do you think there's any major differences or challenges between acting for a video game versus an anime?
The 10 minutes? Yes, thank you, Tenny. Yes. If they're American video games, like I was in Borderlands 2, and some other kind of indie games, that's amazing because we get to record first and they animate to us, so there's a lot more freedom. In terms of dubbing a video game, with anime there is so much visual. You're dubbing in real time, so you have your script on one monitor and the animation going live on, not live, but in real time, on the other monitor, and you're fitting the flaps as the character is talking. Whereas with video games, you probably won't get a visual. Instead you get, or at least not a character visual, instead you get a sound file, if you're lucky. In Dallas you get a sound file, and then you preview it in Japanese so you can get an idea for the timing, and then you see your sound file, the wave file, recording in real time along with the Japanese file above it, so you can like see how much time you have left. In Los Angeles, you don't get a visual of any kind. They give you a script with your lines and only your lines. You can't even get the context of the line from the other characters. And then there's a number in a box that says like 2.097, and that's how much time you have to say the line. And I'm like, I have no concept of what 2.97 is, or like 0.0013. I'm like, you gotta help me out. Like, I don't know. So very, very different. Video games, dubbing video games is extremely tedious. I think it's far more tedious than anime dubbing. But recording for American video games is amazing. It's like I can say the lines in the speed that I want to say them, unless the director has a problem, in which case then I can't. But I'm not bound by mouth movements or the length of a wave file, because the wave file doesn't exist. So yeah, I would like to do more American video games because it's so good. So I love dubbing too, but the freedom that comes with doing something where English is its first language is really amazing too. If I try not to gab as much, let me do 2 or 3 more questions.
Yes. So if you don't know, Matt Mercer does this awesome podcast type thing.
I love
Critical Role.
So
Yeah. So if you were a guest star on Matt Mercer's Critical Role, what kind of character would you play?
oh goodness. I haven't watched Critical Role, and I need to. I'm a terrible friend. I need to, because I know a lot of people in that thing. I need to support them. I don't know all the details of what character types have been taken already, but I would definitely want to be an elf of some kind. Maybe like, I think Marisha's character, isn't she like an elven sorceress or something? That's totally what I would go for, but it's taken already, so I can't. But yeah, something with magic and a race that is not human. That would be cool. Or like, maybe I could be like a mermaid they encounter or something. That'd be cool. Or like a shapeshifter. That'd be cool too. I don't know. I've never played like D&D or anything, so I don't know if there's like rules when it comes to like choosing your character. But a druid.
Perfect.
Okay, a druid. There, I'm sold. Totally. Magic and shapeshift. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be a druid. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm glad that burning question was settled. Because people have asked me that before and I didn't know how to answer. So now I know. I'm a druid, y'all. Anybody else?
I got a question.
Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I've been watching Puzzles and Dragons, and so far I'm
Yay.
digging it. How about you?
Oh my god. Anyone else watching Puzzle and Dragons? One Puzzle, Many Dragons? It's a broadcast dub right now. It's on the Funimation website. It's amazing. If you have children or younger people in your family that can't watch a lot of anime because it's too mature, they can definitely watch Puzzle and Dragons. It's kind of a Pokemon knockoff, but it's great. I voiced a character named Tomazo, who is like the light of my life. I love him so much. I could be having a horrible day and go in to record Tomazo, and oh my god, I love him so much. He's the sidekick of the main character, and it's like really the first time I played a mascot character, so that's really exciting. Thank you. Yeah, he's so funny, and I have such a good time trying to find new and interesting noises for him to make. And then Josh Greeley, who's also here, plays Ace, which is the main character who I am the sidekick with, which is great because he's, like I said, he's one of my best friends. So, someone else raised their hand. Over there. There we go.
When you get a rare day off, what do you do for fun?
I'm an extroverted introvert, so I like being around people, but I also like being alone. It is much better and easier and preferred for me to recharge by being alone. So on my days off, I usually use those days to decompress and be alone, watch movies, read a book, bake cake, I don't know. But yeah, definitely. Because being an actor requires me to be very social, whether it's at work or at conventions, which I love that part too, don't get me wrong, but it is nice to just be alone in the silence and not have to talk to anybody, just so I can recharge and then go back out there. So yeah, a lot of times I'll just watch movies. I love watching movies. But as a film actor, I'm ruined for continuity, so I'll see like continuity arrows and I'm like, or errors, and I'm like, dang it, that glass was empty and now it's half full. I can't see it. We got time for one more question. I just got the 5-minute mark. Yeah.
Whoever sort of related to that, like, do you ever watch your own anime and go, hey, I actually did really good at that one character or that one part?
I do watch my own anime, but it's usually because I want to hear everyone else. I want to hear because usually we record by ourselves, and so I don't get to hear everything coming together in real time. So I love going back and watching it and being like, my friends, everyone sounds so good. But I mean, I've listened to scenes and been like, oh my gosh, I remember how difficult that was, and I'm so worried about it. I'm glad it sounds okay. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of my own worst critic. I think we all are, but I think I exceed expectations. I beat myself up about everything, and I try to listen to myself so I can learn and apply that to like future roles, but I'm really in it because I want to support my friends, and then when I come on, I'm like, like especially if someone's watching it with me, I'm just like, oh god, oh god, there I am. But yeah, so and sometimes it's another thing too though is that even if I'm judging myself, there is a sense of accomplishment, like, oh yeah, another show under my belt, we got through it. I remember how tedious this was, or how much of a strain this was emotionally or vocally, and got through it. Another another one under my belt. So yeah, it's always fun, even though I'm just like, oh god, it's me. But yeah, it's cool. Thank you guys for your questions. I think that's about as much time as we have. I hope I answered your questions in my rankings. If you guys are interested in autographs, me and Kate Oxley have an autograph session right now. In autographs, wherever that is. And I know it's late, but if you want to come by, come by. And then we got some other cool stuff throughout the rest of the weekend. So be safe, have a good time, and I hope to see you around. Thank you.